Camera on you?
Volkaert here in the house, and let me tell you, we're very, very excited about that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we met. It's a fun little story in a second, though. For those of you that may have not heard of Red, Grammy Award-winning master of the Telecaster. He was first nominated for a Grammy in 2004. Then won Best Country Instrumental Performance in 2009. You may remember the song or still listen to Cluster Pluck, found on Brad Paisley's Play, the guitar album. A lot of you may know Red. He's certainly very well known to country fans as the lead guitarist for Merle Haggard's band The Strangers since '97. Released a ton of his own albums, played with 1 million people. I'll just share a few of them. Let's see, Tim McGraw, Hank Williams III, Dolly Parton, George Jones, Eric Johnson, Merle Travis, Merle Haggard, Dwight Yoakam, Alison Krauss, Brad Paisley, Billy Gibbons, Sonny Landreth, Albert Lee, Vince Gill, Commander Cody. The list goes on and on and on and on. We are thrilled to finally get Red here over the past year. We're going to talk about his first project in just a second. Let's shout out to Red. Hey, man.
G'day.
You probably don't know that Red is from Australia, right?
Is what?
From Australia?
Today, my guitar is
actually
from Sydney, mate.
He was raised in British Columbia, right? And now tends to his chickens down in Austin, Texas, which is actually Austin, Texas, perfect place for you, right? So I've got to tell everyone how we first met, right? So Jeff Sheets, who's also here in the studio, came in to make sure he was here for these sessions as well. He and I have been talking about Red, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 20 years, one of our heroes, okay? You know, and you know how it is with your guitar heroes. You're kind of a little, you know, you're just shy around them. I'll admit it right now. So I guess we were in Kansas City where we first finally met at the Folk Alliance, and we did a presentation to a bunch of teachers, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Red sitting at the table, okay? And I am nervous about approaching you, okay? And I finally mustered up the courage to come over and introduce myself, and I may have begged you, told you we've been, really, really had you smack dab in the middle of that radar screen for so many years. And, didn't want you to say no. I guess that's what made me the most nervous, And he goes, well, what could I bring to something like you said? Well, I know you guys, but what could I possibly bring to the table that you don't have already? Do you remember saying that to me?
Yeah.
And I said just about everything we don't have already, and you said yes, and we did that first project about how many months ago was that? Would you say?
I think it was around September, October.
Right. We did the master class called Red Hot Guitar. That would be REDD. Okay. So amazing. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and they say, be careful of meeting your heroes. Okay. And nothing could be further the opposite of what's being implied there. The consummate pro, you are truly, the master on that Telecaster. And what a blast we had in the studio, and what a great, that project just turned out phenomenal. So
it was fun to do, that's for sure.
Did you have fun here, though?
Today or back then?
Back then. Well, then we'll get to today. I don't know if there were two different experiences.
Oh, I was nervous, of course, because it was a brand new experience.
Yeah.
I'm in a tent here, like the boy in the bubble.
Yeah.
And that was all kind of, but it went smooth and great, other than all my mistakes and flubs, and I took so damn long to make it and all of that.
Well,
good.
I don't remember any of the mistakes. I don't remember any of the flubs, and I think you got through it in record time. Why don't we do this? So that course is available right now, and I want everyone to know that we have a promo code. Usually, I don't announce it to the end, but I want you to have it now. It's Red Hot would be the promo code you could use. You can get 20% off this Red Hot Guitar Masterclass. It'll be, number one, a great price, but probably something that you will cherish for the rest of your life as a guitar player. There's so many kind of pearls of wisdom, great licks. It's phenomenal. That's Red Hot is the promo code, REDDHOT, and it's good for 20%. How about can we call up a track from that course and just have you play over it? The way you did that course is, I think we did, the first section had a lot of, key concepts and techniques in the first section, and then you put them all to work over a series of performance studies. Hey, Tommy, do we have, I wrote it down there. One of my favorites was Granny Grunt. Could you play over that a little bit for us?
Sure.
Nice. So that's just a little taste, just a little treat from that first course. And I want to refresh your memory. In that first section, I remember you blew us all away. Your essential concepts. You did showed us how to use the pick and finger, which is a technique a lot of us struggle with, but it's the only way to get a particular sound that we're all trying to get.
True.
Show us a little bit of that.
Well, I'll show how to start practicing slow. And the easiest way, I think, to do that is if you're playing in a band and they're paying you to play, you can practice while they pay you. And on a slow song, where normally you'd be going, or you could do a roll, a forward roll, even with your pinky, the pick on the D string and second finger, one finger for each string, and just practice the chords to the tune. And then do it backwards, starting with your ring finger. Start doing that slow with tunes that you're familiar with. You already know them, so you don't have to worry what your left hand's doing or where it's going. You can focus on your right hand and working those fingers and getting them so they're working for you in time, and forward and backwards and mixing it up, different patterns. And by knowing the song already, you don't have to worry about any of the other stuff, just the task at hand kind of thing. And I'd say that's a real easy way to get it started on working that motion and muscle memory thing going.
Beautiful. And then the other, I'm calling out the ones that I know are the most popular lessons from that first section. You showed us a bunch of approaches for double stop lines.
Right.
Play one or two for us, would you?
Well, double stops are, of course, just two bits of a chord, two notes together. So if I was playing an A bar chord that most of us know, I don't remember it all the time, but any two notes could be called a double stop. So I have a 1 and a 5, a 5 and a 1, a 1 and a 3, 3 and a 5, 5 and a 1. And the numbers I'm saying is there's numbers of the scale. If we're in the key of A and A was the 1, you would count up 1, 2, 3. That's the third note of the scale. That makes up the third note in the scale of the A chord. 1, 3, and a 5 make an A chord. So the fifth note in A, B, C, D, E is the 5. So if you have the A, B, C are sharp in the key of A, and the 5 is an E, that makes up an A chord. So that said, knowing those numbers, I can make up any kind of combination of those two notes together, or I could space them out where I have a 1 and a 3 and practice a whole scale doing that. Or I could start on a 3 with a 1 below it. So once you learn a bunch of those kind of patterns and scales to figure out, then you can mix and match that stuff. And some people made a living playing just double stop scales and sold songs, called them songs. All double stops.
Nice. You will hear all of these techniques all over your playing, but you've helped to craft, I think a vocabulary that you'll hear all over all styles of music. I mean, you play country, you play traditional country, new country, you play Western swing, a little jazz, you play blues, you really. And these techniques are not necessarily one style, right? You can apply them.
No, it all fits. It all works. An A note's an A note. It doesn't care who's playing it or where it goes. You know, I mean, style-wise, so anything goes and everything fits. And, if the song is in the key of C, you can play anything you want in the key of C. And mathematically, it'll fit. Technically, it'll fit. It's whether a rock guy likes it or a country guy likes it, but it all works. So it's they're all neighbors.
Right. So do you remember, I didn't tell you that I'd be asking you these questions. I did tell you I'm going to try to stump you, though, right?
Okay, you're working on it.
Do you remember the lesson rolls, butter rolls that you did? Do you remember that one?
That was the finger roll stuff,
Show
I
us.
believe.
Show us a butter roll.
Well, I'm taking a major scale. So in that A major scale, I've got an A and a B, C sharp, D, and an E, and backwards. So the B and the E, I have open strings. So I could use, if I was a sneaky rat, I could play. And the ones that I'm pulling with my second finger are the open strings. So I'm assigning my pick to the D string and the G string, and I'm playing pick, finger on the B, pick on the G string and a hammer on. Then I pluck with my second finger the E, and then go backwards. Pick, pull off. Finger on the B, and then the pick on an A. So now my major scale, if it was closed, is... But if I want it to sound more cascading, I can do it with those open strings and get... and then get fancy. There you go.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to stump you one more time. This also from the first section of the course you did many months ago. I bet you can't play a steel guitar lick.
You're right.
No. So you did a great section, actually a really beefy section on steel guitar licks. Could you show us one or two of those?
Sure. Well, they're on the guitar, so at best they're emulating.
Okay. Okay, you win. What can I say? So anyway, there are many more really insightful lessons in the first section of Red Hot Guitar, Red's masterclass. And then in the second section, he puts them to work over really a variety of styles, takes all those little techniques, all those little approaches, and, they're a blast to listen to. There's a great vocabulary of licks that you can pull from, and if you feel froggish, you can jump on and try to learn the entire solo. But it was we had such a great response to that, and thrilled to have you back. And we're going to tell folks in just a minute what we did this week. Okay, but first, let's shout out to some of your fans from.
I have one.
Various, but well, you have at least. Let's see, we have. Looks like online right now, 157 people chatting with us right now.
Hang up and drive.
So let me tell you where they're from. Say hey to Savannah, Georgia, Glasgow, Scotland, India, Bakersfield, California, Netherlands, Fort Collins, Lubbock, Texas, Ontario, Canada, Stockholm, Sweden, Finland, Berlin, Germany, Rochester, Costa Rica, New Jersey, Chicago, Maldives. Am I pronouncing that right? The Maldives Islands, I think. Ohio, Maryland, Kalamazoo, New Orleans, San Antonio, North Carolina. I'm seeing Victoria, Texas, Italy, Rome, Oklahoma are chiming in as I speak. If we didn't shout out to you, please jump on the chat line. Let us know where you're from. And we encourage you to ask Red questions. So we'll start to gather all your questions. We're going to interrupt you through this and ask you a few. But tell them about, we did 30 red hot guitar licks you must know, right? Talk about the various styles that you play, that you've pulled this kind of vocabulary of licks from.
Well, for this one, I kind of did was for the 30 licks, was 5 of each kind of style. And, we started with chicken picking, of course, because that's what all the country telly guys want to overdo. So I only did 5 of them, though. You'll have to get the rest from all the other guys on this site. Did some of that, and did some triple stops, which is kind of like the double stop thing, but 3, where you play 3-chord little ditties. Those kind of things like that, and things you can play in the middle of a solo that are a little fattier, jazzier kind of sounding things, instead of just a straight up double stop. It's a bit thicker sound. So worked on that a little bit.
What are the 6 styles? You're saying, well, what were the 6 styles?
What do I got here? I got
Tommy-
chicken picking, triple stops,
Yep.
steel kind of bends, and
Yep.
then some jazzy phrases and things
Yeah.
to play, in different spots in a tune.
Yeah.
And then I kind of put together some counterpointy, I call it, not
Nice.
counterpoint, because
Yeah.
I don't think they're really accurate,
Yeah.
but they work.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of that, 5 of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And then the last one is cool and weird.
Cool and
So
weird.
there's some pretty bizarre little
Could
things
we
in there.
call out to Tommy whatever track you want, and teach us a few right here, right now?
All right, well, let's try maybe Shuffle and G would be a good one to pinch one off in here. That's the triple stop stuff. Steel. Jazzy maybe. No, thank you.
Awesome, man. So Red has 30 licks. He demonstrates each lick over a particular backing track, and then teaches us how to play the lick, right?
Yeah.
So do you remember the first thing you did? The kind of, what was it, the double stop lines on that blues?
On which?
Teach us any one of the licks that you just played.
Well, just the very beginning one I went.
That one, yeah.
On that, I'm playing an F chord, but it's over the G. And then this is I look at it as a G6. Of course, if you're from the music police, there's 7 names for each chord, depending where you're starting from or going to. So basically, I look at it like I'm doing these shapes, and I'm heading south because I'm going to C eventually. And so I look at it like that, but I show on the video of what fingers to use and what frets to play them in, and usually give the numbers in the scale of the key that we're in.
Yeah, and by the way, we put dots on your guitar, didn't we?
Right, there's dots on for all the video we just finished up on. I
Right.
just peeled them off today.
You're not seeing any dots now, but we punched out little holes on the label,
The
just
sticky plastic,
for the video. So fear not, we've got you covered
Yeah,
there. Okay.
I heard there's some folks that like dots more than not. So
Yeah,
we had to put
we
some
get a
dots
lot
on.
of, myself included, Red, I'll be honest with you.
So that little lick is just all basically G stuff to get to C. So I'm playing there. Then I'm doing the same thing with the G6 here. Then I go to an F, flat 5, minor, and that's like a whole bunch of steps to get to C. But that's my intent, is to not go. Instead of that, you could do this. And I show how to do that
And
with
that,
fingers and all
that
stuff.
one's in the course. How about, remember, Tommy, do you have that ballad? I think it's in A. Can you play some of that lick vocabulary over that ballad for us?
Of the thing I just did, yeah.
Or anything.
Sure.
And, you know, from any of the 6 kind of categories of
All
licks.
It's all double stop stuff. Steel licks.
Sweet. So, while you have these 6 different kind of categories of licks, what we think is very cool is they can work over any style and any tempo, really.
To me, they can, yeah. Some,
well, if they
some
can't-
bosses may not agree, but in a
If
band,
they can to you, it'll work for us. That's good enough for us, Red. How about, can you show some of them over the swing kind of feel?
sure.
Tommy, do you have that handy? Swing in C. I have it down as C, but
Yeah, I'll grab swing and C. Just one second.
You trying to throw me off?
we're still trying to stump you.
Tell me it's in C and he's going to play it in A, right?
Well, that's up to you. For you. Yeah, which one do you want?
I'm game.
Swing and C.
I see where you're going with this.
Oh man, I thought we had you stumped there for just a second, but it ain't gonna happen, I don't think. Okay, let's throw one more groove at you. How about Tommy? Do you have a 2-beat in there?
I do. You want the 120 red?
Sure.
Right?
That's the one I showed you a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. I have a confession to make, and I screwed up. I swear to you, I did not do this deliberately. I write the notes from, watching you in session and the tracks that I know you're using. I accidentally, not on purpose, was calling out grooves from the other course, not from the licks course. But it's a good. Sorry, Tommy. that shows you how good Tommy is, though. Okay,
He's on it.
He just not
He's on it.
smooth, Tommy. But I think while it was an accident and while it was my bad, it proved how universally applicable all of the licks that you teach in that vocabulary work over just about any kind of groove we can throw at you. So you passed with flying colors. We're going to stop trying to stump you now, okay? Let's see. Are you ready to do a question or two?
Sure.
Okay. This is from Timu. Could you show us a couple of rhythm guitar tips, parentheses, which keeps those gigs coming? We were talking about rhythm at lunch and how a great rhythm guitar player is like, he will always get and keep the gig, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Because nobody does it anymore. And
Right.
it just seems like an impossible thing, and it's hard to find good videos of fantastic rhythm players that show you how to play properly. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys that do it, and that's great at it.
Yeah.
But I think it's somewhat of a lost art in that there's a lot of people that don't. They play all their hot stuff, and then they stop, and they wait till it's their turn to go off again. And
Right.
it's not playing any rhythm that helps the other guys in the band play.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, it's as much a part of being a guitar player as playing a bunch of hot rod lead stuff,
Give us one quick rhythm tip.
Well, we could play a track again, Tommy, maybe, like a shuffle in G at 130. That's one you already used. But I'll just show you what through the track is a couple of different patterns you could use to break it up, just so it's not all the same wacka wacka all the way through.
Okay, cool. Do it.
Okay. That's one pattern, and then when the singing starts, maybe. And if one guy's already doing that, then you could do something different, maybe. Another one. Another one. Slide up the chord. Like that.
So, what would you say, the common theme to each of those parts? You were varying them, but they were all very consistent and.
Well, it's kind of like if, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, there's also a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you're a drummer, it's a 1E and a 2E and a 3. So there's all kind of little spots in between, and you could pick one of those to do your accents on so that you'll be varied and different from. If you had 5 rhythm players, you wouldn't want them all playing the same because it would sound like a chorus guitar out of tune.
And you
the same
were,
thing.
In every case, very locked in with the rest of the rhythm section, right?
Well, I think that's a goal that everybody should strive for. Of course, it's like not about you. You're part of a group that's trying to make a whole thing sound great instead of, hey, everybody follow me because I'm better. Or whatever, you know.
Give props to, at lunch, we were watching a video of the guy from Western Flyers, an amazing player,
Joey
rhythm player.
McKenzie is his name. It's a band called Western Flyers.
He is a master of?
I think he's a master of the Western swing, fiddle accompanist, and the Freddie Green style of acoustic jazzy rhythm guitar, and
He's
they don't
amazing.
need a drummer.
Yeah, go check him out. And you made a comment, something to the effect you don't even need a drummer if he's in the band, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
he's just such a powerhouse rhythm player.
yeah,
And
amazing.
that's all he does. He doesn't play any lead stuff on the gigs, nothing.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing, and it shows.
So, and Red promises to shout out to him and try to get him in here, and this way we can get him to everybody out there. Another question, this from LM. How does Red approach the blues? Could he talk a little bit about that and maybe play a little blues for us?
Well, if you lose your car and you're sad,
Or the owl ate your chicken.
yeah, if the owl eats one of your chickens, makes your wife sad. That gives you the blues. If mama ain't happy, she never gonna be. How I approach the blues, I'm not a real legitimate blues guy. I'm mainly a country guy, but I've heard plenty of it, so I try and play it, but I don't know if I could say I approach it a particular way like a blues guy or maybe like a country guy would approach it, but I think of it as more pentatonic as opposed to major scale. That's my first mental rule that I go, don't play so majory kind of stuff in it, and slow down and don't be all fired up and going off all the time. Play it like a singer would sing the melody. I look at it more, hopefully, like I'm not always doing it that way. I'm guilty of blowing it a lot,
Yeah.
but just because I'm a guitar nut and I can't help it. But I think a great goal to strive for is to play your solos like you were singing them. So that means take a breath once in a while.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of a singer that sang like a machine gun.
Tommy, do you have can you throw blues at Red? And really, they're asking for how you play the blues. You definitely have your own signature thing. I mean, when you're playing in any style, it's pretty recognizable that it's you, which is pretty cool if you think about it.
I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm stuck with it.
You are stuck with it. Fortunately, we all love it, man. Play a blues for us, Tommy.
3.5 minutes left, Fred. Is that good?
A which?
3.5 minutes left.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Red. We should do a Red Hot Blues course. I think there's one in your future here. Mohammed asks, is there such a thing as country jazz?
I think they call it Western swing, is what I've always understood as a country jazz thing.
Yeah. So what is Western swing? Why don't you...
I think when it started in the 30s, after the Depression, all the big bands went away, and bands like Spade Cooley and Bob Wills, and there's a whole lot of them back then, started their own bands, and they weren't 30-piece orchestras because of the Depression. Nobody could hire a band that big or pay for it. So they started little 10, 9, 12-piece bands, And I think those guys also went around and said, "Hey, how many of you guys out here want to play some country music?" And all the out-of-work jazz guys went, "Yeah, I know country, I'll play it." So they took the gig. So they played a bunch of fiddle tunes and that these cowboy country bands were doing that were... So 3 months later, all the jazz guys are going, "Psst, follow me," to the other jazz guys in the country band, and they're going... So they put all these jazzy chords and little phrases in there. So then when they get a solo, instead of going, they're going... playing that kind of stuff over it. So pretty soon that became what they call Western swing. That's what I think of it, because a lot of those guys that were in those kind of bands back from the 30s to the 50s were really jazzy players. So I kind of think they might have been a little bit liar-y too, saying, "Yeah, we play country music," and they took the gig because they had to feed their families. You know? So I think maybe that's how it kind of got started back then. I might be wrong.
No. It sounds pretty good to me, man. Lee Candiotti asked, did you spend any time playing with Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys? He hears a lot of their style in your playing.
I never played in that band. He was long gone by the time I showed up. But I love that music, and I've tried to play it, and been in a few bands that did a lot of that. Of course, when I played with Merle Haggard, he always called a few Bob Wills tunes because he was a big fan of Bob's music. And I just have been lucky enough to run into a lot of people that like Western swing as well, and that play it in a lot of the bar bands that I get to play in. So I've spent quite a bit of time with it, trying to figure it out to no avail mostly, but I'm learning.
Cool.
Like the rest of us, we're all learning.
Yeah, maybe you might be a couple levels ahead of the rest of us. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one from Brad Wilburn. When improvising and changing chords, what's your thought process? Do you have transition licks that you regularly use to get from the 1 to the 4, 4 to the 5? Or are you thinking out of the scale or chord shape? Are you thinking chord tones, common tones? How do you play over the changes?
Well, when I first started trying to figure that out, I would play, we're in A and it's going to go to D, I would play an A. Then it would go to D and I'd play in D. And I thought, okay, that works, but it's not giving me the sound and the results that I want. So I started thinking about, okay, what is it that makes the change in between those two? And just stumbling and sitting on the couch playing, I wound up practicing my double stops and going from like an A to a D. I would go, how would I get from an A chord to a D chord? I could go up this way, but it sounds too major scale. So, or I could go like that, and then you would hear some other music, and I'd hear more chromatic-y sounding stuff where they would go, that was my first, I think I found something, where I went from an A7, then I would play the 3 and the 5 of the D chord, and that was my lead in. So I think, okay, so if I'm playing a song, then now I'm already in D, so now do something in D. Oh, E's coming up. Right in the middle, just one step away from a good one. So I would look at it like that, and then that helped me get a grasp on how that kind of worked. And then through that, then I would try and find the chords that made those things happen, like those... How many things can you put in there, and use bits of those as parts of lead solos? And that's kind of how I got what I know of it and put it together. I don't know if that helps, but...
Red, you are an incredible teacher, and I'll tell you, when you read the chat, you'll see, you just have a very extraordinarily special way of explaining something so that we can understand it. Because most of us, don't necessarily go, not that there's anything wrong with the academic or formal or theoretical or,
Yeah.
we're just tell us how you go about it and we get it, More shout outs to you from, man, you have a lot of fans in Italy. Ciao to all your fans in Italy.
All right.
Italy,
Awesome.
Victoria, Texas, Rome, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Brazil, Denmark, Houston, Tucson, Austin, Cleveland, Bologna, Italy, Czech Republic, Alberta, Sardinia, Italy, Holland, Las Vegas. We're covering a lot of continents and a lot of time zones.
that's amazing.
So some of these folks are, let's see, eating dinner, having breakfast. Some are in the middle of the night right here tuned into you. Okay.
They're bored.
They're not bored. All right. One more question, and then we're going to talk about the other course. How do you progressively move out of the pentatonic stuff and move more towards, your country style? Or how do you get out of the pentatonic rut is, I think, what the question is from Bro.
Just do it. I mean, if you're playing your pentatonic kind of blues licks or your Johnny Be Good, those kind of things, that's all right there is an A. So I think of that, okay, well, the only difference in that and a real country thing is that it's more major scale. So what are the differences? You don't play the dominant seventh as much. You don't bend the four, bend the three, whether it's negotiable a minor or a major, minor, major. Those are the things that make it bluesier and rockier or whatever you want to call that. And the country stuff, I think of it as more plain Jane major sort of melodies. So if you're creating a lick, instead of going, that's great for that kind of sound, but I think, okay, I want to sound more major or more country. I think of, well, I need to come up with something more major that's countryer sounding, I guess, to make it plain. And so I would, instead of that, I might go. So I'm playing a little bit of that, playing the four, major seventh, and a one. That gives it a little bit of a swingy, bluesy feel, but it's still very major than if I was to play. That's all major. So, I mean, to me, that's like, that smells country as it gets right there. Does that make sense?
Excellent. It makes sense to me. And judging from the comments in chat here, here, Liam says, this information is gold.
Maybe Chrome.
Let's talk about the other course you shot this week, which,
Okay.
In the Jam is one of our most popular formats. For those of you that, aren't familiar with it yet, we basically work with an artist. You get in the jam with Red in this case. There are 10 video jams. The but, and the cool but is you can switch the video view, watch Red playing the rhythm parts, watch him playing the soloing parts. You can mute any of the instruments, the rhythm guitar, lead guitar, the bass, the drums. So whatever instrument you play, you basically can get into the jam with Red. You can solo any part, and then Red does a commentary at the end over the entire kind of finished production so that you can get a kind of a, let's call it a view, his point of view, what he's hearing that's triggering what he's playing kind of creatively and musically. So while we can't simulate that here in this live broadcast, we can roll some of the tracks and let you comp over it for a few choruses and then solo over it, just to give them a taste of the kind of tracks you're bringing to the jam. Tommy, So, since I kind of screwed up at the beginning there, you can even either throw some of those tracks out or pull some of the other tracks and see if we can stump Red again.
I got shuffle in G at 130 first.
Okay.
Wait, some rhythm on that?
So, if you would, comp over it for a couple choruses first, then stop, and then show him. And then, are you able to roll the track with his comping?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll have you solo over your comped part. Okay, all yours, Tommy. Are full length, so 3-4 minutes, something like that. And you can watch that video angle of Red playing the part. All of Red's parts, both rhythm and lead, are tabbed and notated.
And also, I'm talking over those things while I'm playing.
Yep.
Saying, half a verse, you might do this kind of a rhythm where you're, and then the second half, you might do the, or the. So to break it up, I'm kind of coaching on that to say, on purpose, break up your rhythm playing on this kind of a feel of a song so that it's not all the same blah, 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 blah for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the real, I think, the educational gold in these courses. Everybody loves to, come home after a hard day in the office or whatever and jam and have some fun. But there's really no substitute for getting to play out live with other people
totally.
Interact with other and if you're not able to do that as frequently as you'd like to, and unless you're a pro, you're not able to do that as frequently as you'd like to, you still need to learn how to do that. So when you're out there, you can do that, right? And that's what Red. That's
you can
what's
do
amazing.
that with me almost live.
That's it. We get you as close as possible in the jam with Red. And so then, how we're producing it here in the studio is Red lays that down. We video it, but then we roll back that track, and Red will now solo over it, leaving. So, he'll play a couple choruses, and then he'll leave a couple choruses open for you so that you can trade solos with it. So, go ahead, Tommy. So that's just one example of the 10 tracks. Tommy, do you have another one? Sorry to throw that at you kind of out of the blue. Pick another one and let's do the same thing. Lay down, show them what you were doing when you did the rhythm part, and then we'll solo over it.
I got the medium swing here. You want that one?
Medium swing one?
Sure.
Here you go.
Pentatonic. Major.
So 10 different, grooves, kind of different styles. Turns out that all three of your courses really red hot guitar, the first one we did, the 30 licks course, which, by the way, there's a pre-order available right now in this chat thread here. If you scroll back up, you'll find a link to pre-order the 30 red hot guitar licks, the brand new one we just did, and save 20% off of that, which not only saves you a bunch, you'll get that course first, ahead of everyone. But they all work together, don't they? Like, we proved it by me calling out the tracks from one that you played over the other.
Yeah, it all
So-
works together. It's
Yeah.
all good. The same as if you want, you could play all pentatonic stuff over these changes.
Right.
As long as we're all in C, we're all good.
Yeah, and this in the jam will shortly. We'll probably release the 30 licks course first. That'll be get people ready to get in the jam with you, and then 45 or 60 days later, that in the jam course will come out. We've covered a lot of ground. We could go on forever. You could go on forever. Okay, everyone's asking about the guitar. You want to talk about
This guitar is made in Sydney, Australia by Tompkins Guitar. That's without a P. Tomkins. And it's a one-man operation. Alan Tompkins builds them himself, one guy. Makes fantastical stuff. And this is probably one of 6 that I have of his guitars. I just think he makes fantastic guitars. And uses all Australian woods, though they look like our woods over here. Their Queensland maple looks the same as our rock northern maple. They use we have mahogany guitars here, and they use a wood that's Australian cedar that looks like mahogany, super lightweight. I have one of his guitars like that that's made that way, and with an all maple neck, and it's ebony board. And he makes everything, all except the pegs and the knobs. And
Are they pricey?
I think they're around $3,500 for the most part, depending how much goop you get added on. Like I got binding on the body here, just on the front, not the back. And I got the neck side of the neck's got the binding, and I wanted to be a bit of a hog, and I said put binding on the headstock too. Just so it'd be a little more schnazzy.
And they're gorgeous. So once again, the name of that guitar maker out of Australia is
Tompkins Guitars.
Okay, so
without a P.
Without a P. So you can Google them up and get yourself one if you like. We're sort of kind of hoping Red forgets his here. I don't know that we'd be able to find it if that's the case, Red. It's the sound is incredible, and they look fantastic. When you're playing out live, what kind of effects do you take to the gig with you, and what do you play in the back line usually?
Well, the more country the band, the less stuff I have. I'm just like that kind of. I like just reverb and an amp, in a Western swing or a real stone country kind of band. But I have my own band in Austin, and we do all kinds of stuff with that band, and old country, old rock and rolls, a little bit of blues, and some guitar nerd stuff, a couple of Allman Brothers songs. And so for that, I have a little pedal board that fits in an old Anvil briefcase with a bunch of toys in it, a couple of distortions, a couple of echoes, a short and a long. I have my own reverb pedal that's made by Durham Electronics. And I have a couple of his other pedals as well that are the distortion ones that I use. And one's called a Zia Drive and a Mucho Busto. And like one's kind of Marshall amp sounding, and the other one's more the smooth tube screamer, but way more. And I have a tremolo, a Big Joe tremolo pedal, and I even have a tuner.
Now, what would you use that for?
That's for friends that want to sit in.
So we ran over just a little bit, but thank you, man, for carving out this time to do this live broadcast with us.
Well, thank you, and thank you everybody for tuning in and checking it out. And I hope you all sign up. And I ain't the only one in the game here. They got over 200 guys to learn stuff from. So
but I'll tell you this: pick up any one of these courses. It'll keep you majorly busy in your
just
shed
stay
for
home
a
and
long
practice.
time. Yeah,
if your wife has a good job, you're done.
there you go. Pick a tune and play us out.
Well, what do we got? I don't know, some kind of swing tune maybe, or not. We haven't even done a waltz, and I bet there's some old people listening.
You want to do the waltz?
Waltz and A?
We could.
You got it.
For the old folks.
For the old folks.
1, 2, 3.